Well, good afternoon and welcome to Live Impact News right here on 13 News Now Plus. Welcome to another week. Welcome to the last couple days of March. Welcome to what will be the first week of April. We're happy to have you here for every single piece of it. And it's not just us in here. It's not just me and you guys. It's the People's producer, Nia Campbell, in here as well. Nia, welcome to Monday.
Welcome to Monday.
What's going on? Now, I'm going to give you two options. I want you to tell me which one your weekend was more.
Okay.
Was it more a fun, busy weekend with a lot going on, or more an opportunity to get recharged and you got to rest and relax?
I feel like it was a mixture of both. I had the very productive Saturday, and then I had a self-care Sunday.
That's the best way to do it. Yeah. That's by far the best way to do it. Nia Campbell not only knows how to structure a news show, she knows how to structure a weekend, but does she know how to structure a forecast? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if she does or not, because Taylor Stephenson is here to do that for us. Meteorologist Taylor Stephenson in the house. Taylor, which of those two things would you choose to describe your weekend?
What were the options again? I'm sorry.
You can either have had a rest, relaxation, self-care weekend. I stayed in, I got charged up. Maybe I did some cleaning, I did some prep, or I was out, I was about. It was a lot of fun, but I am a little tired.
Yeah, I would say it was both, but I feel like mine was kind of like a mixture of both on each day.
Okay.
So like Saturday, Nia and I went to work out. Yeah, we did a bungee class. That was really cool.
Yes. There's a couple members of 13 News now.
A couple is a very little word. There was like 10 of us.
There were like 10
we were rolling deep.
WVEC folks out at the bungee class doing their thing. I walked by Layla Cox earlier, and she was like, I think I pulled something in my back.
That's how it feels.
Yeah.
It really works your entire body.
Yeah, it was fun though. But then after that, we went to brunch, and then I immediately slept for like 3 to 4 hours.
Straight to sleep.
Yeah, straight to sleep. I was like, I took a hot shower, got right in the bed. I'm asleep.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah, and then Sunday I went to go cheer on our softball people, so that was fun.
Yes, did we win?
We won. Yes,
13
yes.
News Now softball team.
Yes, we won. I will say my co-anchor Jordy, that girl got an arm on her. She was throwing that ball.
Jordy Clark played softball in college.
She did.
Yeah. So other teams think they're going out there just to have some fun, and Jordy Clark is like, I'm digging back into my competitive reserves. Right now.
Yeah. Well, I will say the league they're in is very competitive, and the other team was not happy that they lost, of course. But they were saying, "Oh, she's got an arm." Talking about Jordy. Yeah. So they're like, "Watch out for her." Yeah. Jordy was a superstar.
So Jordy Clark, MVP number one. Was there maybe a secondary MVP? Anyone else who stood out?
Yeah, Henry, our photog.
Henry, our photographer.
Yeah, he played baseball. So he was, and then number 3 was Jaron, our photographer. He was also great.
Okay, carrying the squad.
Wow.
Jordy, Henry, and Jaron. We'll do Monday updates. So 1-0.
No, 1-1.
1-1. Okay,
yeah,
that was the second game. Okay,
that was our first game?
Second game.
Softball team.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense. Dang. When's the next one? Are they every Sunday?
No, because next Sunday is Easter. So the next one after that, they have a double header the weekend of the 12th.
Nice.
And 13th.
Oh.
No, 11th, 13th. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful.
Yes.
Okay, April 13th, doubleheader. We will report back with scores and results.
Yes.
And happy Easter week, everybody, too.
Yeah.
I left that out of the longest intro ever. I don't know how I missed that. Happy Easter week. Well, okay, here's the question. Are we going to have a beauticious Easter week? Is it going to be really
it's going to be so beautiful.
Great.
I was just talking to the sheriff's department, and they were like, oh, we can't imagine a better week. I was like, I can't either. I can't either.
That's what I'm talking about. Okay, we're talking sunshine. We're talking warmth. Are we talking precipitation?
Just a little bit. Okay. But it seems like most rain chances should be very low, which is great.
This is fantastic. We put up with a little bit of cold last week.
Yeah, even the
weekend was a little Saturday was a little nasty. Yeah. So this works out.
Even yesterday, it felt good in the sunshine, but we were out at the softball field, and when the wind goes up your back, you feel it. That's how I felt. I was like, I was like a little chill. I was like, okay, it's getting a little cold. But still, even then,
we like to call that posture wind.
No, yeah, literally the one that straightens you right on up. But this week we will have winds, but it's gonna be those warm winds that kind of feels more like summer, when you had those windy, more warmer days. That's what it's gonna feel like. Even high temperatures this week are gonna be more reminiscent of late May into early June.
Wow. Okay, so we're either way ahead of the game or kind of behind the game. It seems like over the last 8 or 9 days, but I'd rather be ahead of it than behind it. Okay, so we've got warm. Now, what has caused this? Did we have a warm front?
So we actually had high pressure come through the area. So what happened is we had the cold front on Friday that brought us some rain, and then we had the cool down for Saturday, Sunday. But high pressure followed right behind that. When it slides offshore, that gives us south winds. So south winds pump in warmer air, and so with high pressure just sitting over the Atlantic, we're having a really nice week here in Hampton Roads.
Okay, awesome. If you have Easter plans, feel free to rock some shorts and kind of keep it cash.
It should be really nice. I mean, I'm talking temperatures near 80 degrees almost every day.
Really?
Besides today, which will still be in the mid 70s. So can't complain at all. If I could have this week over and over and over again, I would literally be in heaven.
It's one of those perfect weeks where you can go for a long walk outside and you're not coming back sweaty.
Yes.
Maybe once we get a little later into the week.
Yeah, once you get to about
hotter.
Wednesday, you get a little more humid. But even today, it still feels super dry. I don't know if you guys noticed this, and I'll bring Naya back in here too. Have you noticed like the humidity hasn't really returned quite yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, it just feels good, right? So for me, I get really sweaty when you start bringing in that humidity because it's just like all that moisture in the air. So even this week, today especially, it's just going to feel more of like that dry warmth.
That's good.
Yeah.
Because my hair will think.
Yes. And that is why I don't wear my natural hair out like Naya's. Hers is so cute, but mine would turn into a huge afro if I just let it.
Is this the perfect week to wear it out, though?
It is, but I'm getting my hair done on Thursday. So
hey.
yeah, I am getting some cornrows, but I'm also getting some hair in the back. It's gonna be cute, like a little tropical island vibe. Yeah,
this is very exciting. That was a great tease.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to Belize on Monday, so
oh my gosh, dropping bombs of information on us here. Hair done Thursday, Belize Monday.
Yes.
Who are you, Taylor Stephenson?
I am Taylor Stephenson, travel extraordinaire.
Seriously, that sounds fantastic. Are you? What's the deal with Belize? What are we doing? Are we beaching a little bit? Are we exploring a little bit?
We're doing a little bit of both. So it's my high school best friend's birthday.
Okay.
Or one of my high school best friend's birthday. And she and I have not been able to hang out really because she actually started a family much earlier on. So she has 2 little ones. So it's going to be the first time we've actually traveled together in general.
Really?
Yeah. And she lives in Fort Worth, Texas. So it's kind of hard to see her a lot just because of the distance and because she has her own family. But it's her birthday, so it's going to be me, her older sister's boyfriend. So the 4 of us will be in Belize. So we're going to have a couple days of beach. One day is going to be like a massage by the water. And then another day is going to be like snorkeling and swimming with sharks. So yes, I'm super excited. So
okay, swimming with sharks.
Yes.
That sounds actually kind of frightening.
Yeah, it does, but it's not in those cages. You know, there's like swimming with nurse sharks where you're just like la la la, and there's swimming with sharks where you're in the cage.
Right.
I'm not doing that one.
You're not doing the cage.
Yeah, I'm doing like the nurse sharks that just like swim around.
Right. They're like a nurse shark is a good descriptor for them.
Yeah, they're just
gentle. They're taking care of you. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Good. So we expect to see you back here from Belize, free of shark bites.
Hopefully, I would hope so.
Is this a situation where you go Thursday, you're there Monday, we're not going to see you till the next week?
Oh, I'm off all next week.
Oh my God.
So I work now through Wednesday. I'm off Thursday, Friday. I work the weekend, and I'm off Monday through Sunday. Yes.
Oh,
I'll be in Belize for about a week. So.
Will you be? You'll be there. So you're here for Easter.
I'm here for Easter, yes, and I'll be on air for Easter to walk you through your Easter forecast.
That kind of worked out perfect. Okay,
yeah.
Easter forecast coming from Taylor Stephenson, and despite our perfect week of weather, you're actually going somewhere with even better weather.
Yeah, I checked the weather. It was like 80 degrees every day.
Oh my gosh!
Yes,
but
it's not their rainy season because their rainy season is like hurricane season. So it's perfect.
Oh, that sounds awesome. We are so jealous. Yes. We look forward to tales from Belize.
Oh yes, I'll have plenty. I'm sure.
a massage by the beach, just combining 2 awesome things. Can I tell you guys something?
Oh.
I've never gotten like a spa day massage before.
You need one.
I haven't either.
Oh, really?
Naya hasn't either.
Oh my gosh, you guys are missing out.
Now, Naya, do you choose not to, or you just happen to have not experienced that?
I just happen to not experience it, but I would love to.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, you have to. I've gotten massages maybe 2 or 3 times in my life when I'm in Atlanta. And it's the most relaxing thing. I mean,
really?
they'll serve you like jasmine tea, and you just like lay down. And you get, I mean, it's fantastic. Yeah. And I feel like with us being in an industry, a lot of people don't realize you see us sitting down a lot. We're actually walking around a lot of the time, and you put a lot of tension on your back. You know, doing all that movement. Even with the workouts we do, you can put tension on your back, so it actually gets the knots out of your muscles. And it hurts at first because you're like, my muscles are so tight. Yeah, like literally. But it feels so good afterwards.
I can't. My fiance's been trying to get me to go do one for a long time. Even when someone comes up behind me and does the shoulder scrunch thing, I get a little like
tense.
I feel even more tense. You know, I don't know if that's just because.
It's the environment. It's the environment for sure. Because in those massage rooms, I mean, it's dark. There's like music playing that's very like low, but it's not like elevator music, but you know, it's lyricless music. So you're not focused on the song really.
A sonic landscape.
Exactly, basically. So I highly recommend doing that.
Yeah, I would love to do one. I've only recently in my adult years living here in Virginia wanted to do one, but like every time I try to look in the radius, I don't see any that are like the full spa, like everything included.
Oh, I've never done the full spa where like there's like the
mud bath.
Yeah, I haven't done all that. I just do the massages.
Right.
But because those can get very expensive. I mean, when you're talking those prices, you're talking like $200, $300. Right. I'm talking like $80.
Full spa.
Well, the Cavalier has one.
Like everything?
Yes.
Mud bath. I'm talking.
I don't know about mud bath now.
What is a mud bath?
You just get in there. Have you ever watched, what's that movie? Okay, I'm going to go too much in deep.
We'll talk about it later.
Now, I want to, before we finish the forecast, I do want to ask, you talked about.
We didn't even get it started.
Before we start the forecast, I want to ask about, you say how we're walking around a lot around the station. You were walking around a lot today. Can you tell us a little bit about the tour today?
So I had a tour group from Bruton High School that's up in Williamsburg. So originally I was supposed to go to Williamsburg to see them, but they decided that instead of me driving to them, I was like, why don't you guys come drive down to me and actually get a tour of the station since they had a smaller group. So I had students who were interested in science or interested in journalism come down and take a tour of the station with their 3 teachers. Such a fun tour. All we do is just go around and I tell them what everybody does, show them around the newsroom. I think it's kind of an exciting thing for those who kind of view TV to see the insides of TV. And I think the adults get the most excited because they actually watch the news compared to, I mean, the students I was talking to were anywhere from 14 to 18 years old. So they're not really going to sit down and watch the news, but their teachers do. And so they were getting excited seeing all the stuff that we do here, but it was just a fun tour. And I do a lot of school visits, a lot of tours. I love working and educating children. Children are our next generation, so, and they're the next ones up. So it's important to introduce them to all fields and all walks of life.
100%. It was awesome to see. You just hear Taylor's voice out of nowhere, kind of tour guiding.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, Taylor's got another group of students coming through to learn some things. Absolutely love that. And in terms of teaching the children, could you now teach us about the forecast?
Yes. And I think that Naya and Connor are going to love this forecast. So let's talk about the weather headlines for today, tomorrow, and the rest of the week. We're staying dry today. We did have a little bit of a shower around portions of the eastern shore. That was really for Accomack County. That's a part of an upper level disturbance. So it's the only area today that we really did see rain. Otherwise, the rest of the area is staying dry. For the rest of the week, not only will we be warmer than normal, we'll be warmer than today. Our normal high temperature is around 64 to 65 degrees, and highs this week will easily be 10 to 15 degrees warmer than that. So a really nice warm week for us, again, resembling more like late May, early June. We get into the rest of the week, so Wednesday and Sunday, so the first night of Passover, and then Easter Sunday, where I am tracking some late day showers. Now, this looks to be more of an isolated event, not talking any type of a washout, but a few areas could see some showers, and even just maybe a stray shower Thursday, Friday, Saturday, but those chances are around 10%. Here's a live look from our Norfolk Botanical Garden. It's a beautiful start to the afternoon for us. You can see the blue skies really making a comeback after we had thicker cloud cover this morning. Temperatures right now in the low 70s. It's one of those days where you kind of did have to wear maybe a layer or two. I wore a light jacket this morning, and then I was able to leave it in my car by the late morning just because it started to warm up. Yeah.
Same. Thin hoodie.
Thin hoodie. Even Naya, she has a cute jean jacket on. She probably won't need it by the time she's walking out the door today, especially wearing black. She's going to absorb all of that sunlight pretty quickly. But it's all because of these southwest to west winds. West winds are a very dry wind. And then southwest winds are a very warm and dry wind. And so that makes temperatures rise to the 70s. So here's a look area-wide. Only place where I'm seeing 50s is on Tangier Island, but that's to be assumed. I mean, you're surrounded on all sides by water. So the rest of the area, you're seeing upper 60s, even for the eastern shore, where that's usually much cooler, lower 70s as you head towards places around the coast, upper 60s inland. So everyone I see in southeastern Virginia and northeastern North Carolina getting in on what is a really beautiful day. Here's a look at the area. Do you see those black dotted lines? That's an upper level disturbance. That's bringing the rain for northern Virginia and into central Virginia. But look how we're kind of in like a bubble where Richmond's seeing some rain, Farmville's seeing some rain, even Chincoteague seeing a little bit of rainfall. But the rest of the 757, 252, we are dry, seeing you can see the difference in the clouds. And I'm going to put this on my little pointer here. So if you see the cloud cover here, if my pointer will, here we go. Let's see if I can get my pointer. I'll get the arrow here.
Well, take your time. I see what you're talking about, though, where we kind of avoid the true sort of green portion of that storm.
So this is the rain, but you see how like the clouds are like whiter and thicker? That's showing you some cumulus clouds and some that are producing some rainfall. You see how our cumulus clouds are like really puffy like popcorn? Those are called fair weather cumulus. And so you usually see that on really nice sunny days. Okay. So you can see the difference, how these are more like popcorn. Yeah. And these are thicker, that's producing the rainfall.
Yeah, it doesn't have the same consistency.
It doesn't. So whenever you see these little popcorn-looking clouds, you're usually going to have a really nice day.
Okay.
So we progress through the day, and it is really nice. By the time we get to around 3:15, I'll even scoot it up to about 4 o'clock where our normal high temperatures are. Or 73, 72 degrees. I mean, you can't beat a day like this.
That's wonderful.
But it will be breezy, so wind gusts will be up to about 25 miles an hour. For my people who have not taken their allergy medicine, take it. You will need it. I felt it all this morning. Yes. Usually you have the highest level of pollen in the morning because the trees distribute their pollen between about 4 and 6 a.m. So the highest pollen counts are usually going to be in the morning time. But when you have really breezy conditions like this, pollen spreads very easily. Okay. And so I was feeling this morning, my eyes were watering. I could hear it all in my throat. Right. Even our production manager, Reba, she lost her voice. I mean, the pollen is very thick. We're having high levels of tree pollen and medium levels of grass pollen.
You're telling me Reba Bloom lost her voice?
She did.
She's a certified yapper, too. That's going to be a tough stretch for her.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Reeves.
Yeah, she lost her voice. You should go talk to her. Her voice is gone.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
But yeah, pollen will be a thing that we're watching all week as we're dry, we're warm, we're breezy. Yeah. That helps to distribute more pollen.
You'd rather be too early than too late with the allergy medicine. Don't wait until you're stuffed up and coughing and eyes are itching.
Yes.
Start taking it now.
Get like a month ahead of mine.
Oh, really?
I gotta start getting it in my system.
Naya was telling us this like 2 weeks ago. She was like, she starts in like December.
But I will say, like, I washed my car over the weekend, and I've had it under the garage, so I haven't gotten the pollen on it. As soon as I drove to work today, layer of yellow on the car.
Yep.
Good for you for following through on the car wash.
Yeah, her car looked clean.
We talked about that on Thursday. She was like, I'm getting the supplies to wash it this weekend. Follow through. That's what I'm talking about.
Washing my car is therapy to me, and I used to do it all the time frequently. But since my accident or whatever, I haven't been able to take it through the car wash. So I was like, I gotta wash it manually and detail the inside.
Now you've got the garage at your place. Do you drive it outside and then wash it somewhere outside, or can you wash it in there?
No, my aunt, she has a hose, so I did it at her house.
Oh, that's right.
That's
you go to
smart.
Auntie's house.
That's smart.
Very smart. I haven't cleaned my car in a while, Naya.
Yeah, me neither. I just wait for it to rain. I would call myself a young tea. I'm a young auntie. I wait for my little car to be out.
Mother Nature will clean it.
Hey, and it happens every week or so. So
it does the job.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, Naya and I went to dinner and got my car washed while
there you go.
Car wash, quote unquote.
I do not find it therapeutic. That is not my therapy, is the cleaning of the car. So I can't dive into that with you.
It's so fun, and like I just love doing it. I don't know
Now,
why.
is that something that like you had an experience when you were younger that turned washing the car into a therapeutic thing for you? I don't want to make you peel back the layers of life here during our forecast, But when my mom would tell me I need to clean the car, I'd be like, this is a task that I just do not want to do.
Yeah.
And you found a way to turn it into like a positive for your life.
I mean, I guess I connected a little bit to my dad being a huge car person.
Your dad was a huge car person. You told me that, yeah.
Maybe that's why, but
yeah. What a fantastic hobby to enjoy.
Yeah, literally.
So productive.
Yeah, productive.
Mine is like, I need some therapy. Time to hop on YouTube. And yours is like so much more productive. Okay, we admire and appreciate that, Naya.
Yeah.
And there will be no opportunities for you and I to get our cars washed this week.
Oh, no, not by Mother Nature, because look at tomorrow. Tomorrow, even warmer. Starting off in the upper 50s and lower 60s. We get to the afternoon, highs near 80 degrees. So beautiful. But yes, no opportunity for rain at all tomorrow. So for Connor and I, we may have to actually pay the little price. And
Just leave a little pollen on there.
Yeah.
You know, you can write little messages on my car in the pollen if you want to. Just communicate with me.
And then we get into Wednesday, which Wednesday night is going to be the first night of Passover, and temperatures will be in the low 80s. We have the opportunity for an evening shower or two. We will have increased cloud cover. That's a part of a stalling front, and that front will stay, looks like fairly north of the area. So even Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you didn't see Connor, but he just raised the roof.
Well, I was waiting for that Saturday, Sunday to come on. You built so much anticipation with that.
I did.
And then it just
Did I
couldn't have
follow
been
through?
better.
Did I deliver?
You did. Oh, my
Okay.
gosh. 79, 78, Easter weekend. Beautiful.
Yeah,
Look at that Saturday.
Saturday looks fantastic. Even Friday, in downtown Norfolk, we have First Friday on Friday, which is a block party.
Yes. Love First Friday.
Yes, and it looks like it's gonna be perfect. Absolutely perfect for First Friday on Friday.
We'll usually have a reporter out there covering the first Friday too.
Oh, really? I didn't know
Yes,
that.
typically
We haven't
we'll have
had one
one
in a
out
while. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to fast forward, but we can go through this. That was an accidental push. But just as we get into this warmer week, just know darker colors do absorb more sunlight. So I'm just being aware of your body temperature. If you wear light clothing, your grandma was not fibbing when she told you wear some light colored clothing because you might get hot. She's actually right. It's called albedo. And albedo is a measurement of how much an object absorbs sunlight, and so, the reflectivity of an object. So the darker colors don't absorb much more sunlight, and so it keeps you hotter. Just think about like the pavement. The pavement gets really hot really quick because usually those are darker colors. When you get to snow reflects light super easily, and so that's why it takes a little bit longer to melt. But on a week like this, yeah, I would say short sleeves, some lighter colored clothing, some shorts, probably your best friend. Even for people who are like us and working in a professional newsroom where we do have to wear obviously a little bit more modest clothing, still after work, try to just go for a walk and just enjoy the sunlight. But on Sunday, Easter, we should be dry for the majority of the day. So for those who have Easter celebrations, if you're going to church, if you're going to mass, make sure that you just have some sunglasses. It should be a pretty beautiful day. Wear some breathable clothes. But by later on the night, we will have some opportunities for some late showers, and that will usher in that'll be ahead of a cold front. That cold front will usher in some cooler temperatures for next week. But I'm not focused on 10 days out. I'm focused on the 1 through 7.
1 through 7.
So I'm excited for this 7-day forecast. I mean, you really can't beat a week like this.
Easy for you to say. That cold front comes through, you'll be in Belize.
Oh, yeah. I'm like,
Yes.
perfect timing.
It's like I'm not worried about any of that. That sounds great. This is a beautiful forecast. Comes just in time for Passover and Easter.
Yes.
It's going to be a great week.
Yes.
Yeah, this is great. Well, Taylor, we really appreciate it. What else do we need to know? Is there anything?
No, that's about it. I will say usually the last frost this season comes on April 1st, which is Wednesday. So it looks like we kind of had our last frost. We did have some freezing temperatures over the weekend. But I don't see anything close to frost, which is usually around 33 to 36 degrees. I don't see any temperatures like that. So usually for this area, last frost around April 1st or later in May. And it looks like we're pretty much beyond that point.
Okay, last frost came early. We love to see it. We're moving into the permanently warm temperatures. Will we see you in here again this week, Taylor? I know Wednesday's your last day, but we'll catch you tomorrow, maybe Wednesday.
Yeah, you'll catch me tomorrow. Huh. Yes, and you will not catch me on Wednesday just because Hunter will be here.
Okay.
Hunter will be here. So you'll catch me tomorrow for sure.
All right, sounds good. Taylor Stephenson, everybody, coming through with a beautiful weekly forecast. Just sunshine and 70s out there. So make sure you got the light clothing and the short sleeve shirts. For us here on Live Impact News, we're going to take a brief commercial break. When we get back, we're going to dive into today's news. Stay with us. All right, we're back in the studio. We won't spend too much time here because the White House press briefing just started. Let's throw it out to Washington, D.C., to the White House and Caroline Levitt.
Successful combat flights thus far. The trend remains clear. The United States is conducting more intense, targeted strikes with devastating combat power with each passing day to destroy the threat posed by the Iranian terrorist regime, as President Trump sought out to do a month ago. It's no surprise that we are seeing the remaining elements of the regime become increasingly eager to end the destruction and come to the negotiating table while they still can. Despite all of the public posturing you hear from the regime and false reporting, talks are continuing and going well. What is said publicly is, of course, much different than what's being communicated to us privately. As a result, President Trump issued a 10-day pause to postpone planned strikes on Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure. This remains a truly once-in-a-generation opportunity for the regime to make a good deal with the United States, permanently abandon their nuclear ambitions, and stop acting as the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism. If the Iranians reject this golden opportunity, the greatest military in the history of the world continues to stand by to provide President Trump with every option available to ensure this regime continues to pay a grave price. One way or another, Iran will no longer have the credible ability to threaten the United States or our allies, which is, of course, the overall objective and mission the president set out when he launched Operation Epic Fury. Unfortunately, even as President Trump is working hard every single day to protect the United States from foreign enemies, Democrats on Capitol Hill have failed to do the same here at home by keeping the Department of Homeland Security unfunded. Over the past 6 weeks, Democrats in Congress have pushed our air travel system to its breaking point and inflicted massive pain on Americans with their reckless political games. 500 TSA officers quit their jobs. Thousands more were calling out sick at record rates due to the lack of pay. This resulted in security wait times exceeding 3 hours at major airports across the country, creating nightmares for millions of Americans. Overall morale among TSA staff plummeted as well, all of this creating an unacceptable heightened security risk. Because of the Democrats' unwillingness to do their basic job of funding DHS, President Trump determined that these circumstances constituted an emergency, compromising American security. That's why last week he accordingly signed a presidential memorandum directing the Secretary of Homeland Security to work with the Director of the Office of Management and Budget here at the White House to use those funds with a reasonable and logical nexus to TSA operations to provide TSA employees with the compensation and benefits that would have accrued to them but for the Democrat-led DHS shutdown. This bold and necessary action by President Trump will ensure our TSA workers receive their hard-earned paychecks. It should not have come to this point, but President Trump will always do what's right by the American people, and he found a way to do that, to get TSA paid. Ensuring that these federal workers who perform critical public safety responsibilities can feed their families, pay their rent, and show up to work is something the president was honored to do. But this moment should be an eye-opening one for the American people. Let's be clear about what is happening. Democrat members of Congress are more than happy to put your safety at risk because they oppose the president's and his administration's efforts to enforce our nation's immigration law. Democrats refuse to fund ICE because they want millions and millions of illegal aliens to pour into the country just like they were under the Biden administration. They want murderers and rapists and thugs to remain in your communities rather than be removed by ICE and Border Patrol agents. The Democrats created this mess. They are the reason for long lines at airports and tens of thousands of employees going without pay. Once again, President Trump is cleaning up their mess because he cares more about the American people than destructive, petty, partisan politics. With that, I will take your questions today. Here in our new media seat, we have Wid Lyman. Thank you for being here. And why don't you kick us off?
Thank you. Happy Easter.
Thank you. You as well.
Two questions for you. Thank you. There are some concerns the administration is starting to change its position on deportations, border enforcement, possibly asylum policies. What would you say to Americans that are somewhat concerned that the shift has happened?
Sure. Well, while there has, of course, been a change in leadership at the Department of Homeland Security with former Senator, now Secretary Mullen, joining the president's cabinet, I can assure the American people there has not been a change in policy. It has always been the policy of this president and this administration to deport the worst of the worst illegal alien criminals from our communities. That's something I know Secretary Mullen remains wholeheartedly committed to doing. And it's something that is overwhelmingly popular with the American people. And it's something that is necessary to protect our homeland and to prevent deaths of Americans in our country. Just last week, Sheridan Gorman, a young woman in Chicago, was shot and killed on the street walking with her friends outside of her university by an illegal alien from Venezuela who had no right to be here in the first place. And it's despicable that Democrats are currently defunding the department that's responsible for removing illegal aliens like that. And I would also add it's despicable that the lack of coverage of this young woman's case, of her life, and the way that it was tragically cut short. I saw a survey over the weekend that I'd like to bring to all of your attention. This is the media coverage of the case of Sheridan Gorman. You have ABC News has spent 1 minute and 19 seconds between 2 days when this case was first alerted. You have CBS 2 minutes and 1 second. You have NBC 23 seconds spent on the life of a young, beautiful American woman whose life was taken short by an illegal alien who should have never been here in the first place when we are in the middle of a battle on Capitol Hill with a major political party, the Democrat Party, who wants to defund the agency that is responsible for protecting Americans. I think her life was worth more than 23 seconds on cable television, and I think the people in this room have a responsibility to report on cases like this because it just exemplifies why the president believes so strongly in deporting illegal aliens from our communities. And thank you for the question. Dasha, go ahead.
Caroline, I have two questions, one on Iran and one on DHS funding. On Iran, the president has said that the administration is talking to a new and more reasonable regime. How confident are you that they are legitimate and have enough grip on power? Marco Rubio said earlier that he's not sure and it's not clear whether they will be in power. So are you also talking to other factions? As a president is trying to make a deal, how do you ensure that you're making a deal with the people who can actually implement it?
Well, that's part of the ongoing process that's taking place and the ongoing negotiations. Of course, anything that they say to us privately will be tested, and we will ensure that they are being held accountable to their word. And if they are not, the president has laid out the military consequences that the Iranian regime will see if they don't hold true to the words that we are hearing privately behind the scenes. When the president says more reasonable, again, these folks are appearing more reasonable behind the scenes privately in these conversations than perhaps some of the previous leaders who are now no longer on planet Earth because they lied to the United States and they strung us along in negotiations, and that was unacceptable to the president, which is why many of the previous leaders were killed. So again, this is another historic opportunity for Iran to do the right thing, to rid themselves of their nuclear ambitions and to come to a deal with this president and the administration. Or again, they will see the grave consequences of the United States Armed Forces, which they are continuing to see every day throughout this operation.
On DHS, how long can the administration keep paying TSA without action from Congress? And not to be hyperbolic, but given the airports were really the pain point that was pushing both sides to talk to each other. I mean, do you see a way for DHS to reopen? Is it possible that this keeps going through the midterms?
Well, we certainly hope so. I mean, of course, the president just can't keep signing presidential memorandums and proclamations every time Congress fails to do its job, and every time Democrats are holding our entire country hostage, picking and choosing which programs and agencies they want to fund just because they don't like this administration's policies. That's not how it's supposed to work. They voted 7 times against funding DHS over partisan and political reasons. And so, again, the president has stepped in to do the right thing at this moment in time, but the president is also encouraging Congress to come back to Washington to permanently fix this problem and to fund and reopen the Department of Homeland Security entirely.
Caroline?
Stephen.
Thank you, Caroline. 2 questions, one on TSA, one on Iran. On TSA, for ordinary Americans watching the briefing, how long until everything goes back to normal at airports after the president's action? And then on Iran, on the time frame, President Trump initially said about 4 weeks. Secretary of State Rubio on Friday reportedly said it might be another 2 to 4. Is 2 to 4 the current ballpark that the administration is thinking?
With respect to the timeline, again, the President, Commander-in-Chief, the Pentagon has always stated 4 to 6 weeks estimated timeline for Operation Epic Fury. We're on day 30 today, so again, you do the math on how much longer the Pentagon needs to fully achieve the objectives of Operation Epic Fury, which I will reiterate: destroy the Iranian Navy, destroy their ballistic missiles, dismantle their missile and drone production infrastructure, significantly weaken their proxies throughout the course of this operation, and then, of course, preventing Iran from ever obtaining a nuclear weapon. To your first question, Stephen, about TSA and airports, nothing will be truly normal again until Democrats do the right thing to fund this agency fully. Again, the president has stepped in the meantime to do what's right to end this crisis that we've had at air travel and at airports across the country in the meantime. But again, Congress needs to come back. Democrats need to fund the Department of Homeland Security so we can formally and fully get these great employees paid long into the future. Jonathan?
Thanks a lot, Caroline. 2 questions regarding the financial costs of the war. Back during the Persian Gulf War, 1990, 1991, Arab countries paid for the vast majority of the costs of the war. Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, the UAE. Who's paying for the cost of this war? Will those Arab countries step up to do just that?
Well, I think it's something the president would be quite interested in calling them to do. I won't get ahead of him on that, but certainly it's an idea that I know that he has, and something that I think you'll hear more from him on.
And then secondly, the cost of diesel is averaging at $5.38 a gallon right now. What's the message from the Trump administration to truck drivers who are dealing with those high fuel costs right now?
Again, we understand, we hear you, we see you. We are fully tracking this short-term fluctuation in oil and in diesel prices, and that's why the president and the administration have continually announced robust actions to provide stability in the global energy market. As you know, political risk insurance, one of those actions, allowing countries to purchase sanctioned oil just to increase the supply. In the meantime, we've worked to release 400 billion barrels of oil and refined products as well. We issued the 60-day Jones Act waiver. All of this has, with the goal of increasing supply to create stabilization in the market in the meantime. But the overall message, as we've repeatedly stated, is, again, these are short-term actions and short-term price fluctuations for the long-term benefit of ending the threat that Iran poses to the United States of America, our troops, and our allies in the region, and ensuring that this regime can no longer control the world's free flow of energy through the Strait of Hormuz, which is something the administration continues to tackle day by day as well. Jennifer.
Just 2 questions. Which Jennifer?
I'll go to both of them.
Go ahead. So 2 questions. One on China and one on Iran. On China, ahead of the president's trip to Beijing, will there be a working level meeting with Secretary Bessent, Jameson Greer, et cetera, and when will that be?
I do expect cabinet officials to travel to China ahead of time. I don't have a readout on their schedules for you, but this is something we typically do with international travel, as you know. So I'll talk to the Treasury Department and the cabinet myself, and we'll get you that answer. But we do expect them to move ahead of time.
Okay, and thank you. And on Iran, if Iran is kind of cherry picking what tankers get to go through the strait now and contemplating big tolls on those tankers, is that consistent, or how is that consistent really with the president's message about really wanting the strait to be fully open? Does the administration support a regime or system where Iran is effectively charging tolls on these vessels to access?
That's not something we support, and I would reject that they are cherry picking. In fact, as you know, these tankers that are moving through, the 10 that were previously announced, and now the new 20, the announcement of 20 additional tankers, which we expect to see over the coming days, are a result of the direct and indirect talks that are taking place between the United States and Iran. So you wouldn't have seen those tankers if not for the president's diplomacy and his team engaging on this matter, which we expect that compliance moving forward, and it's again something that we're working on very closely. Sure. And behind the tank in the back right there, you put up your hand very excitingly. Go ahead.
Hannah from News Nation.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking my question. I have two for you real quick. There are reports that Republicans are weighing cuts to health care in order to make way for that $200 billion for the Pentagon and Operation Epic Fury. Is that a trade-off that President Trump supports?
I've seen these reports. I haven't spoken to the president about it, nor have I heard this being discussed in any high-level meetings here at the White House. I don't want to weigh in definitively because I just haven't heard that being discussed here in the West Wing.
And then secondly, I know President Trump says we're ahead of schedule in achieving his military objectives in Iran. He laid out that 4 to 6 week timetable for this conflict, and we're now within week 5. So how do you square kind of those two?
Well, 4 to 6 weeks estimated timeline. Again, you just said we're on day 30 of the operation. I just provided you with some of the updates from the Pentagon directly in achieving the objectives, and the military has been enormously successful. I think we should all be very proud of our armed forces for what they have done over the past 30 days. The mission will continue until the objectives are achieved, and that 4 to 6 week timeline does remain right now. I don't have any updates for you on that.
Yeah, like others, one on TSA, one on Iran. On Iran, I know it's tough to engage in hypotheticals, but I feel like this is one that you could engage in if the president does seek.
Probably not, but
We'll see. If the president does seek, or the United States seeks a ground war, does he intend to get congressional authorization of that march?
Look, the president has been asked about boots on the ground or alleged ground operations various times. He's obviously declined to rule them out. It's the Pentagon's job to provide maximum optionality to the president. It does not mean he's made a decision, nor would he ever notify the media of such decision as not to tip off our enemy. With respect to abiding by Congress and the rule of law, that's something the administration will, of course, always do, and it's something that we have great respect for Congress. The president does with military operations. In fact, prior to the launch of Operation Epic Fury, as you know, the administration gave a courtesy notice to Congress in the Gang of Eight, and top-level administration officials and cabinet secretaries have gone to Congress multiple times over the past 30 days to provide those courtesy briefings to Congress when requested.
TSA quickly, I've been asked by multiple Trump supporters that have said, given the fact that the president on that Friday gave that memorandum informing DHS to pay TSA workers, I know there's a lot of negotiations involved in a shutdown of this size. Why did the president not sooner issue that payment to TSA workers?
Well, it's because of the Democrats voting 7 times against reopening the Department of Homeland Security that we came to a place of an existential crisis. I mean, you saw the lines at various major airports across the country, American travelers really paying the price for Democrats' partisan games. And so the president worked with his legal team here at the White House and the Office of Management and Budget to find a solution to take care of the emergency that we were seeing in air travel across the country. And it's because of the president that TSA agents are being paid. But again, he's calling on Congress to do the right thing, to come back to Washington and to fund and reopen the Department of Homeland Security fully. Sure.
Hi, Lindsay Ellis from the Wall Street Journal. I'm trying to square the 4 objectives laid out by the administration with the goal of reopening fully the Strait of Hormuz. Would President Trump declare victory and wind down military operations if the 4 objectives are met but still passage remains quite slow through the strait?
Look, as I've said repeatedly and as the president has laid out, the objectives of Operation Epic Fury are as follows: destroying the Iranian Navy, destroying their ballistic missiles, dismantling their defense industrial infrastructure that produces those weapons that have long threatened the United States and our allies, and then, of course, preventing Iran from ever obtaining a nuclear weapon. The full reopening of the Strait is something the administration is working towards, but the core objectives of the operation have been clearly defined for the American people by the Commander-in-Chief. Garrett.
The president posted this morning about, his threat that on leaving Iran, he said we might blowing up and completely obliterating all of their electric generating plants, oil wells, Harg Island, and possibly all desalinization plants. Under international law, striking civilian infrastructure like that is generally prohibited. Why is the president threatening what would amount to potentially a war crime with the U.S. military? And how do you square that with the administration repeatedly saying that the U.S. does not target civilians?
Look, the president has made it quite clear to the Iranian regime at this moment in time, as evidenced by the statement that you just read, that their best move is to make a deal, or else the United States Armed Forces has capabilities beyond their wildest imagination, and the president is not afraid to use them. That's not what I said, Garrett. And you're saying the word potential for a reason, because I'm sure some experts are telling you that in your ear to try to ask me that question. Of course, this administration and the United States Armed Forces will always act within the confines of the law. But with respect to achieving the full objectives of Operation Epic Fury, President Trump is going to move forward unabated, and he expects the Iranian regime to make a deal with the administration.
To that end, which of those objectives would destroying a desalinization plant most help?
Haley, go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline. I want to follow up on Iran. When you're describing that the Iranians you're in contact with are being more reasonable this time around in discussions, what specifically are you hearing that is leading you to that conclusion, and how are you defining what's reasonable versus unreasonable in that regard?
I'm not going to detail the private and sensitive conversations that are taking place between the United States and Iran right now.
But generally speaking.
Generally speaking, the president gave you the answer. What we're hearing from them is more reasonable. They have agreed to some of the points the United States laid out, as the president said last night aboard Air Force One. But again, as for the specifics, as these negotiations are ongoing, we're not going to broadcast them to the world unless the president chooses to do so, which he has the full right to do as the leader of the free world.
Caroline. On Cuba, the president threatened to tariff any country that would send oil to Cuba, but now the U.S. is letting this Russian tanker to Cuba. Is this a policy change, or is he willing to let more tankers into Cuba now?
This is not a policy change. There has not been a formal change in sanction policy. As the president said last night, we allowed this ship to reach Cuba in order to provide humanitarian needs to the Cuban people. These decisions are being made on a case-by-case basis. And as the administration has said, Cuba's non-functional economy cannot be fixed unless they undergo dramatic political and leadership change. But there has been no formal change with respect to sanction policy.
So you could expect more tankers to go to Cuba?
Again, these decisions are being made on a case-by-case basis right now.
Thanks, Caroline. You addressed this a little bit in the opening, but just to follow up, because Americans are sort of seeing these conflicting messages between the United States and Iran. I know the president insists that negotiations are underway. As you just mentioned, he's also said that Iran has agreed to most of the 15 points. We just heard from Iran again. They're saying no negotiations are taking place. They're calling the proposal excessive, unrealistic. So how do you square that? How do you explain that discrepancy between the two?
I think the American people are smart enough not to take the word of a terrorist regime that has chanted death to America for 47 years at their word. And I hope the journalists in this room are wise enough not to take an Iranian regime that has repeatedly lied about our country, about our values, about everyone in this room, frankly, for nearly 5 decades. So I think the American public are smart enough to understand that.
And just to follow up on the objectives, you've laid them out, but I know the president has set a deadline for April 6th in just 1 week. What does the president need to see to not move forward with those strikes by April 6th?
Well, I think he said it in his Truth Social post this morning. He wants to see a deal over the next 10 days. That timeline is waning, several days left, and we'll see. I won't get ahead of it. We'll see what happens in the end of the 10-day period.
Caroline, thank you. One on Iran, one on the shutdown. The president continues to say the U.S. is in conversations with a more reasonable regime, but there are now hundreds of U.S. Special Operations Forces, including Navy SEALs and Army Rangers in the Middle East, as well as thousands of other troops already deployed. So is he trying to end or intensify the conflict?
president is focused on achieving the objectives of Operation Epic Fury. With respect to forces that are on the ground in the Middle East, it's the job of the Pentagon to create maximum optionality for the commander-in-chief. It does not mean the president has made any additional decisions. Again, he remains focused on ensuring that the Pentagon continues to achieve the objectives of the operation that was launched 30 days ago, and we're well on our way to doing that.
So if an American sitting at home hearing him say, I want to talk, but I keep seeing them send troops to that region, what are they to make of what's going on?
There's two tracks here. The president has always said that diplomacy is his #1 option and priority. Again, he tried earnestly, in good faith, to engage in diplomacy with the Iranian regime prior to this operation being launched in the first place. He wanted to strike a deal, and he sent his top negotiators to do so. They spent extensive amount of time and effort trying to strike a deal, and unfortunately, the previous regime, again, many of those leaders no longer with us here on Earth because they faced the consequences of the United States military. So if there's ever a chance for a deal, again, the president is open to listening, but it does not deter him from focusing on the military objectives that he set out 30 days ago and that our military is continuing to achieve day by day.
On the shutdown, he signed the national emergency order last Thursday, making sure TSA officers will be paid. There's still other civilian DHS employees, however, who are not being paid.
Yes.
Will he sign something similar to ensure they also get paid?
Look, the president will always look into ways that we can make sure that the American people are being taken care of and doing what's right by the American people. But again, it's ridiculous that the president even has to go to the length of working with the legal team and the Office of Management and Budget to identify these funds. It is the job of Congress to fund these agencies. And Democrats in Congress have voted 7 times against funding the Department of Homeland Security. Congress should come back and they should get it done. The president, again, made the decision to prevent this existential crisis we were seeing at our nation's airports across the country that was only going to get worse, and that's why he wants Congress to do his job.
Thank you, Caroline. Since you mentioned
I'll go to you as well.
You're welcome. Since you mentioned Easter and prayers, I wanted to ask you about something the Pope said yesterday. So Pope Leo said yesterday, and I quote him, "God does not listen to the prayer of those who wage war." Can you comment on that?
I think our nation was a nation founded 250 years ago almost on Judeo-Christian values, and we've seen presidents, we've seen the leaders of the Department of War, and we've seen our troops go to prayer during the most turbulent times in our nation's history. And I don't think there's anything wrong with our military leaders or with the president calling on the American people to pray for our service members and those who are serving our country overseas. In fact, I think it's a very noble thing to do. And if you talk to many service members, they will tell you they appreciate the prayers and support from the Commander-in-Chief and from his cabinet.
Caroline, thank you. President Trump told the New York Post that a response is coming shortly to Tehran attacking Israel's largest oil refinery. Is there a timeline on that? Is that tied to the success or not of the negotiations?
I don't have any updates for you on the president's comments.
Does that consider the IRGC in control of Iran?
Well, look, as Secretary Rubio said today, the leadership is very fragmented. We have really neutered their intercommunication systems, and that's part of this process of diplomacy to continue figuring out exactly who's in charge. I know they appointed a new Ayatollah, haven't seen or heard much from him, and so that's part of this diplomatic process that's underway right now. I'll take a few more. Solon.
Thank you. You listed the described humanitarian reasons for allowing that oil tanker to reach Cuba. Just to clarify, why was the administration okay with Russia sending that oil to Cuba and not other nations?
Look, again, this was a decision. It'll continue to be made on a case-by-case basis for humanitarian reasons or otherwise, but there's been no firm change in our sanctions policy.
President Sheinbaum of Mexico also said that Mexico is exploring different ways to restart some of those shipments to Cuba. Is the administration okay with that at this time?
Again, there's been no change in our sanction policy. We still reserve the right to seize vessels if it's legally applicable that are headed towards Cuba and that violate the United States sanction policy. But of course, the president and the administration also reserve the right to waive those seizures on a case-by-case basis.
And to clarify, just any more Russian oil tankers going to be allowed to reach Cuba at this time?
Again,
I know you say case-by-case, but for the case of Russia, is it pretty much green light right now?
No, that's not what I said. It's a case-by-case basis.
Sure.
Sure, Jeff, go ahead.
Switching topics, the president has always attended CPAC. He did not this year. Why did he not attend, and does he believe CPAC is becoming less relevant?
No, I don't think he believes that at all. In fact, he loves CPAC and has a very good relationship with the great people who run it, Mercedes and Matt Schlapp. It was just simply for scheduling purposes this year, with it being in Texas. It was best for the president's schedule and what he has on his plate right now not to go. Michael.
Thank you, Caroline. If and when
Michael.
a deal is finalized with Iran, how does the U.S. provide protection to who it's negotiating with to ensure that they can carry out the president's peace plan?
Again, that's something I'm sure our national security team is discussing. I don't have anything for you on that today.
The ballroom. Can you tell us more about this massive military complex underneath the president's new ballroom?
I cannot tell you more about that, actually, as a matter of fact. However, the military is making some upgrades to their facilities here at the White House, and I'm not privy to provide any more details on that at this time. Caroline, go ahead. Reagan.
Thanks, Caroline. Question on the Middle East and then a question on Antifa. Netanyahu said Sunday that Cardinal Pizzaballa will be able to hold services for Palm Sunday in the Church of Holy Sepulchre after he was initially blocked by Israeli police. Did anyone from the administration or the president call over to Israeli officials to assist the cardinal in this?
Yes, I did speak with Secretary Rubio this morning, and we did express our concerns with Israel with respect to these holy sites being shut down. We want worshipers to be able to access these holy sites. Of course, safety is a top priority, but we understand Israel is working on those security measures to reopen the sites throughout Holy Week, and that's something that we're appreciative of.
Antifa.
Sure.
In Texas, 9 people have been convicted by a federal jury on domestic terrorist charges connected to Antifa. The White House has previously indicated that you guys are investigating Antifa, who's funding them, who's leading them. Can you provide an update on how that investigation is going, and do you think we're going to see more charges against people connected to Antifa?
Well, I do know that there was an entire task force that was set up, an interagency task force to focus on the threat of Antifa, which, as you know, Reagan, this president declared a domestic terrorist organization rightfully, and we will continue to look into it. I don't have any updates on those specific investigations, but I'd be happy to have my team get those over to you today, as this continues to be of the utmost importance to the president and his domestic policy agenda.
Caroline, JJ. On one question on landmines, there's been some reporting that American-made landmines have been spotted on the ground in Iran. Did President Trump sign off on using U.S.-made landmines in Iran?
I don't have any comment on that report today.
Caroline, whether they're being used at all?
I don't have any comment on that.
Karen.
Two on DHS. You said that the president is encouraging Congress to come back to D.C. You also
Yes.
said yourself. How has he done that? Has he told leadership that they should cancel recess and come back?
He said it repeatedly. I think you recall. He said that he'll host a big Easter dinner here at the White House if Congress will come back and fight the Democrats on this issue, which we should do. Because again, the Democrat Party is in the wrong here. They have voted 7 times against funding the Department of Homeland Security, which is completely egregious with everything we have going on in the world. And these brave men and women who serve DHS deserve to get their paychecks. The president wants to see that happen, and he wants Congress to come back to get it done.
On the paychecks, Caroline.
All right, welcome back to Live Impact News. Following that White House press briefing this morning from Caroline Leavitt, obviously an immense amount of discussion about the war in Iran, as well as about the Department of Homeland Security funding. So let's start with the Department of Homeland Security. We're going to have to go back to the end of last week to fully flesh out where things stand right now. Now, the Senate appeared to have come to an agreement to fund most of the Department of Homeland Security in the midst of an incredibly long shutdown that has led to massive delays at airports, with many TSA workers calling out since they're not getting paid. After again, unanimous approval from the Senate of a funding deal for most of the Department of Homeland Security, including TSA, that was then passed off to the House so that the House could approve that funding deal. That is when things completely and totally fell apart. House Speaker Mike Johnson spoke on Friday afternoon. He said that he has to, he called this a joke, this agreement that had been, again, unanimously approved by all Republican and Democratic senators, called a joke by Mike Johnson. Johnson said, I have to protect the House and I have to protect the American people. And the deal, of course, was, at least in part, a production of the Senate Majority Leader John Thune, the Republican leader of the Senate, after weeks of negotiations. So Mike Johnson, again, sort of at the forefront of the charge in not approving the funding deal that just needed to get through the House to ensure that TSA would be funded. And now Congress is on a 2-week spring break. So that they leave the Washington, D.C. without coming to a funding deal for the DHS. Now, President Trump has said that he would be ensuring that the TSA got their funding. Let's see. Trump said on Thursday he would sign an executive action to pay TSA workers. So hopefully that is, as far as we know, as of today, as of the course of the weekend, things at airports were still extremely difficult with very long wait times due to a lack of TSA agents. So remains to be seen if TSA agents will get paid quickly and things will sort of clear out ensuing those payments. For now, a unanimous agreement from the Senate dies in the House with very strong rebukes from Mike Johnson, the House Majority Leader. So we'll see. We'll see where this goes. We will continue to watch. Now, there is another action that we need to sort of monitor here, and that is the situation in Iran. It remains, the war continues in Iran. It stretches into another day, and again, many of the questions in that particular press briefing were in fact about the war in Iran. Now, one of those questions was about the targeting of desalination plants in President Trump's sort of threats that he has made in trying to encourage Iran to negotiate to end the war. So on Monday, President Donald Trump said he threatened a widespread destruction of Iran's energy resources and other vital infrastructure, including desalination plants, which could affect the water supply for the people in Iran. He says, if a deal is not reached shortly, this is what could come. The latest threat also mentions Iran's Karg Island oil export hub, which Trump suggested United States troops could seize in an interview that was published early today with the Financial Times. So that is a new threat, 2 new threats that came from President Trump this morning in regards to the lack of a deal that has been made with Iran. Now, Trump said the United States is negotiating with Iran's parliamentary speaker. He said that in an interview with the New York Post. The former Revolutionary Guard commander was previously floated as Washington's negotiating partner, but has denied Iran is talking to the United States and said Pakistan-facilitated discussions were merely a cover for American troop deployment. So that has been something that has the reports conflicted all last week, with Trump and his administration speaking about negotiations that were actively happening, and Iran and Iranian state media denying that those negotiations were happening. So that continues into this week. Early this week, we still see conflicted reports as to whether negotiations are going on and who they're happening with. But President Trump, nonetheless, coming out with threats today of targeting of various aspects of Iranian life and production if those negotiations don't result in a deal shortly, or those alleged negotiations, I suppose. Let's talk death toll very quickly here. The death toll has risen to more than 1,900 people in Iran, more than 1,200 people in Lebanon, 19 in Israel, and 13 United States military members. Millions of people in Iran and Lebanon have been displaced. So that death toll continues to rise as we stretch into the 5th week of this war in Iran. All right, how about another topic that was mentioned during that press conference? Okay, let's continue to sort of give some context to some of what was spoken about, and that is the murder of Loyola University student Sheridan Gorman. There is now a suspect in that murder. Police say Jose Medina approached Gorman and her group of friends last week by a pier in Rogers Park. Investigators say Medina, the suspect, was dressed in all black with a mask, then pulled out a gun and shot into the group. Gorman was shot in the neck and died from her injuries. Again, Gorman is a student, or was a student, at Loyola University. An arrest report says witnesses noticed Medina had a distinct walk. That and surveillance video helped police track him to a nearby apartment building where he lives with his mother. Now, his mother told police he has a limp due to a previous gunshot wound that left him brain damaged and disabled, which is speaks to that distinct walk that was noticed. Are we having audio problems by chance here, Naya? No, okay. I was having a little distortion in my headphone there. I didn't know if I had lost my microphone. Now, police searched Medina's home, where investigators say they found a gun and its shell casings matched the one found at the scene. So Medina now a suspect here in this particular incident. The Department of Homeland Security says Medina is an immigrant from Venezuela living in the U.S. without legal permission. Again, that's according to the Department of Homeland Security. DHS said he entered the country illegally in 2023 and was arrested for shoplifting in Chicago that year. So all of this developing late last week. In court on Friday, officials said Medina came to the U.S. to seek safety in 2023. They said he turned himself in at the border in Texas, was detained for months, and asked to be deported to Colombia, but was put on a bus and sent to Chicago. So that coming from officials speaking as to how Medina ended up in Chicago. So differing descriptions there to a certain degree. It was one of the many buses that were sent in from Texas that year during federal immigration disputes. So this is a tragic incident, first and foremost, before anything else, with the death of a Loyola University student, an 18-year-old Sheridan Gorman, killed in this incident. And through the investigation of this incident, obviously, we see different layers coming into play here, and that mentioned today in the White House press briefing. Now, let's talk about a live picture that we have up on our board right now, as we've got the Artemis II prepping, resting, waiting, expecting a launch later this week. That is what is expected out of NASA's Artemis II. This would be the first time that NASA astronauts have headed towards the moon since 1972. 1972, the last time an astronaut was on the moon. Now, this could be as soon as Wednesday that this crew launches on their mission to fly around the moon in an Orion capsule that currently sits right where you see at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. It's a 4-person crew. We actually heard from members of that crew late last week in a live press conference. The first launch opportunity will come April 1st at 6:24 p.m. That doesn't mean it's a guarantee, but that's the first launch opportunity if everything works out. Mission managers have several more launch opportunities through April 6th. So there you see, waiting, the Artemis II to blast off on a historic trip towards the moon. So we're keeping an eye on that. We'll have coverage of that throughout the week. If possible, we'd certainly love to take that launch live. We'll see if we're able to make that happen. Obviously, if it's at 6:24 p.m., that won't be the case. But Plenty of launch opportunities to come this week. Let's check in on some local news from this morning in Virginia Beach. Police say a customer shot another customer during a dispute at a 7-Eleven on Diamond Springs Road around 8:55 a.m. Monday. The victim has non-life-threatening injuries. Again, this is a dispute that occurred at 8:55 a.m. at a 7-Eleven in Virginia Beach. Officers were called to the 800 block of Diamond Springs. During an altercation, one adult produced a firearm and shot the other person. The victim was taken to the hospital with, again, non-life-threatening injuries. Authorities said the people involved were customers at the store and described the shooting as an isolated incident with the investigation ongoing. So somebody shot this morning in a 7-Eleven due to a dispute, 8:55 a.m. Here you see video that our team gathered from that particular scene this morning outside of a 7-Eleven. Obviously, if you are headed to work in the morning, or if you're kind of making your way through your Monday, it's very likely that you'll pop into a convenience store like this for a coffee or a snack as you get your week going. So certainly scary to hear that there was a dispute that led to a shooting inside a 7-Eleven on a Monday morning here. So a little bit of things to catch up on there. We wanted to make sure everything was up to snuff before we start moving on to some of maybe our pre-recorded press conferences from earlier today, or any other stories that we need to get to and that we need to cover this afternoon. What we're going to do first, we're going to take a commercial here. When we come back from that commercial, we're actually going to dive into some things that we noticed happening live earlier today and recorded so that we could play them back for you. We'll be right back after this break. All right, welcome back. Thanks for sticking with us here on this Monday afternoon. Let's dive into another major story that has been developing over the end of last week and into early this week. The NYPD and the FBI disrupted an alleged plot to kill pro-Palestinian activist in Hoboken. So this is Nurdine Kizwani is who we're referring to here. She's the co-founder of Within Our Lifetime and organizer of pro-Palestine protests in New York City. There was allegedly a plot to assassinate her, and the NYPD and the FBI disrupted this plot, obviously before any of that political violence could take place. Now, Nurdine Kizwani is the one who posted on social media that the FBI informed her that she was the alleged target after they had already disrupted the plot. Let's talk about the suspect here. Authorities arrested Alexander Heifler, 26 years old. Thursday night, he was arrested, charged with unlawfully possessing and making firearms and plotting to go after the activist Nurdine, who we previously discussed. Now, the methodology that the NYPD used to execute this disruption, also interesting. An NYPD officer who was undercover identified Alexander Heifler online, infiltrated a group chat that he was involved in, developed a relationship with Heifler, and then was able to thwart the assassination plot. So an undercover officer online doing heroic work there to thwart what is alleged to have been an assassination plot from Alexander Heifler. There was a press conference in New York City earlier today to speak about this particular event. Let's listen in now from a pre-recorded video from earlier today.
We realize that an attack on one of us is an attack on all of us. Muslim sisters across New York feel a level of fear going down into the streets, going through the trains, knowing that one of the most prominent figures is not only attacked, but an assassination plot is made against her. And so we come together today to stand alongside her, to let her know that her fight is not a fight that she is fighting alone, that her plight against Zionism and in support of Palestinian human rights is a plight that we all are ready to stand alongside her. And an attack against her, once again, is an attack on all of us. So we say from the Muslim American Society of New York that we will stand alongside you now, and we are ready to continue to stand alongside you and this movement. And to close off, and before I pass this on to the amazing speakers and legal team that is joining us here today, I share that Muslim New Yorkers have been here for a very long time. And although this is the first time we have a Muslim mayor, do not be blindsided by the fact that Muslim New Yorkers are part of the fabric of this city. They are organizers, they are city workers, and they are all across this city. And they should be recognized as such. And in this moment, it is time to uplift them and to hear from them and their stories. And with that, I'd like to start off today's press conference by introducing a member of Nurdine's legal team, Chris Gottschall-Bennett. He is a partner in Lee and Gottschall-Bennett, and he will be starting us off today.
Thanks, Abdullah. I'm going to start us off, like my colleagues will cover the legal piece. I want to frame this a little bit because this case is really personal to me. So I prepared some thoughts on kind of where we're at and what this means. I'm with you all today not only as Nurdine's attorney, but as a proud product of New York's Palestine activist community. 15 years ago, like many young Jews, I was told a story about a country to which I had a birthright. It didn't matter that my dad was Christian or that I had no existing relationship to that land. To access that heritage, all that was required of me was to abandon any sense of morality that I had. Refusal to fall in line would result not only in the forfeiture of this supposed birthright, but expulsion from the Jewish community in the United States itself. I rejected this choice then, and I reject it now. My adult life has been defined by my choice instead to build my own community, starting with a small group of like-minded Jews at Columbia and Barnard, where we founded the school's first anti-Zionist Jewish organization, the Columbia Barnard chapter of Jewish Voice for Peace. Then and now, we are led by the Palestinians, who refuse to be silenced, whether by the state or by Zionist terrorists. I find myself back in New York 12 years later to witness the results of a decade of tireless advocacy led by people like Nurdine Kizwani. I see a city transformed into a center of solidarity with the Palestinian people and of opposition to Zionist supremacy. That victory is precisely why these Zionists have targeted Nurdine. They are deeply afraid. They have lost their stranglehold on public opinion and have fallen back on their original strategy, the strategy that has always been at the center of Israeli politics, straight up murder. Organizations like the Jewish Defense League and Beitar, both created in the image of founding Zionists, reflect the dark reality of Zionism, a twisted vision of Jewish life and community, safety through violence, peace through war, life through death. While we work to hold those accountable who are responsible for this attack, I urge you to see them for what they are, not fringe elements acting alone, but the very center of Zionism itself. There are those who will say that to do so is anti-Semitic, but that is a lie. The real anti-Semitism is that at the heart of Zionism, and in the founding documents of organizations like Beitar. The belief that Jews cannot live among others without inviting hatred. That Jewish identity is contingent on compliance with their agenda of conquest, and silence in the face of their genocide. The perverse idea that we must create, in Beitar's words, a quote, normal, healthy Jew, in the image of the nativists and bigots responsible for the supremacist ideologies that animate all forms of racism and dispossession. If you want to stand against anti-Semitism, stand with the Palestinian people and with Nardin. Reject the movement that murders children and then uses Jews around the world as an ideological human shield to evade accountability. After decades of tireless work by our Palestinian brothers and sisters, the people have finally woken up. Don't let Zionism's apologists convince us to move on from this moment. Meet their assassination attempt with a strengthened movement in the streets of the city and of this country. We have never been closer. Don't let them fool you into thinking otherwise.
Thank you, Chris, for those remarks. Next, we're going to be jumping into another member of her legal counsel, Jonathan Abity. Jonathan Abity is a leading civil rights lawyer from here in New York City.
Good morning, everybody. We are in a crisis. This is a crisis of multi-dimension. When someone is attacked and persecuted for expressing their political views. My name's Jonathan Abity. I'm another one of the lawyers representing Nardin Kiswani. And I would first just like to say that it is an honor and a privilege to represent Nardin Kiswani. And it is an honor and a privilege to represent her because she is a person of conscience. She is a person of tremendous bravery and courage and conviction. And what brings us here today is cause for great sadness and great outrage. We are here because an individual with the support of an organization attempted to kill, was involved in a plot to kill Nardin Kiswani because she was exercising her constitutional right to free expression, to speak out, to engage in political advocacy for the Palestinian people.
Okay, so that press conference froze just there, as you could likely tell. We're working on reloading it so that we can get it back up for you guys. Already moving quickly through the speakers, a number of different people voicing their support for Nardin Kiswani in the aftermath of this allegedly failed assassination plot to kill the pro-Palestinian activists in New York. So again, this is something that, I'm getting the thumbs up from Naya because we have got this ready to roll. Let's go back out to New York and listen in on more of this press conference.
Very ugly, dangerous iceberg. There are many individuals and organizations out in the world, out in this country, who have as their objective to oppress, intimidate, harass, and to even kill, to firebomb a person and her family for expressing her heartfelt political beliefs, to stand up for the Palestinian people. We cannot tolerate that. We cannot condone that. We cannot allow that if this is a civilized, fair society. And so I want to thank, on behalf of Nardine, everyone here. In times like this, we have to stand together. We have to make our voices heard. We cannot remain silent. And we must demand and insist that our public officials, that every branch of law enforcement do everything that they can to see that the people who are responsible for this are held accountable and are prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. That's why we are here, and we're not going to rest until those goals are achieved. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Jonathan, for sharing those remarks. And finally, the final member of her legal team, I'd like to introduce Eric Lee. Eric is a partner in Lee and Gottschall Bennett.
Thank you, everyone. Four days ago, Nardine Kiswani and her family were the subjects of a right-wing terrorist attempt planned by a Zionist here in New York City. His aim of silencing a Palestinian activist and murdering her young child mimics the official policy of Israel, where he planned to escape for protection. His method, that of a firebombing in the dark of night, is the method of the Ku Klux Klan. While we are grateful that this individual's plot was stopped, we are not here today to look back at a threat that has passed. According to the criminal complaint that was filed against the would-be assassin, there were others who were aware of this plot and who either assisted in it or did nothing to stop it. They held video calls at which Ms. Kiswani's assassination was discussed. They have group chats. He had a safe house. They have access to financial resources. Serious and credible death threats have continued against Ms. Kiswani in the days since the arrest. And that we pledge, therefore, that in the days and the weeks and the months that follow, we will work tirelessly to expose the as yet uncovered network of Zionist terrorists that are working in our midst and which still pose an active threat to Ms. Kiswani. This assassination attempt comes just a month after Ms. Kiswani sued Beitar Zionist Organization and its New York-based leadership, which includes Ron Tarosium of 5W Public Relations located in Midtown, Ross Glick, Yoni Kletzel, John Mantell, as well as the organization's board of directors. We've sued them under the Anti-KKK Enforcement Act of 1871, which bars private individuals from conspiring against the rights of people in this country. For over a year, Beitar has had a sadistic and sick fixation on Ms. Kiswani, stalking her, harassing her, threatening her, including by handing her a beeper to mimic Israel's use of beepers as incendiary devices in Lebanon. Beitar has encouraged the public at large to assault her, including with dogs and baseball bats, repeatedly offering a substantial cash bounty of $1,800 to any member of the public who would assault her. It has urged the Trump administration to strip her of her United States citizenship and has confirmed that it met with the Trump administration in Washington to discuss Ms. Kiswani's case, which leads me to my final point. The conspiracy against Ms. Kiswani does not stop with these Zionist organizations. What were the Trump administration's contacts with Beitar and the network that has been plotting against Ms. Kiswani for over a year? And in a larger sense, those who bear political responsibility for creating the climate in which an attempted attack like this was inevitable are holding positions of power in the federal government. These include Florida Congressman Randall Fine, who has even continued his fixation on Ms. Kiswani even after the assassination attempt's details became clear, as well as Justice Department official Leo Terrell. These individuals have subjected Nardine to a level of vitriol whose purpose could have been nothing else but to encourage the type of attack that almost took place on Thursday night. And I think it's also worth saying that in the climate that we live in this country right now, as this individual was planning his attack, the federal government assassinated 2 American citizens, Renee Good and Alex Preddy, on the streets of Minneapolis. How could this individual have not noticed that the White House's official policy was to defend and even applaud the murder of Americans on the streets because they disagree with the policies of this government? And so the attack on Ms. Kiswani is no accident. It's not the product of bad apples. It's the deliberate and intended product of a political strategy by the Trump administration to cultivate extra-legal parliamentary militia forces to murder its opponents and suppress dissent in the aim of establishing a dictatorship in this country. We will do everything that we can in the courts to expose the right-wing conspiracy, but ultimately, as others have said, the fight against dictatorship and right-wing terror is not going to be led from within the American state apparatus. It's going to come from the population of this country, which is furious at what this government is doing, which is furious at what this terrorist network has done to our client. And here, as we prepare to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence and the revolution that gave birth to this country, we encourage the people of this country to understand that the responsibility of defending our client and whatever remains of democracy falls on you, the people. Thank you. And now I'm going to introduce Marwa Janini, the Executive Director of the Arab American Association of New York and a prominent Palestinian American leader here. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Marwa Janini, the Executive Director at the Arab American Association of New York. We are here today because there was a plot to assassinate Palestinian American organizer Nardine Kiswani. We are relieved that this plot was thwarted and that she is safe. But let me be clear, this is not just shocking. It is a direct threat to the safety of our communities and the core values of this city. It is dangerous, it is unacceptable, and it cannot be ignored. No one should have to live in fear for speaking out. No one should have to wonder if using their voice will put a target on their back. This moment is about 2 fundamental rights: the right to free speech and the right to be safe. And what we're seeing is a failure to protect both. This is not an isolated incident. For many years, and especially over the past 3 years, we have witnessed a sharp and undeniable rise in hate violence against Muslims, Arabs, and Palestinian communities. Women have been assaulted, hijabs have been ripped off, mosques have been vandalized, people have been targeted simply for who they are. Across New York City, Muslim women in particular are being targeted again and again. On the subway, in Central Park, in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, home to one of the largest Arab and Muslim communities in the city and where our organization is based. We cannot normalize this, and we will not stay silent in the face of it. We stand in solidarity with Nardine and with everyone who has been targeted by hate and violence, and we are demanding more. We are demanding that leaders at every level do their jobs, to take this seriously, to ensure real accountability, and to actively protect our communities. We are demanding stronger prevention, real safety measures, and a commitment to addressing hate violence before it escalates. Because no one should ever have to choose between speaking out and staying safe. Not here, not in this city. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to introduce the founder of Muslim Girl, a well-known social media page with one of the largest followings amongst Muslim pages, Amani Al-Katabko.
Ladies and gentlemen, the First Amendment is under attack. Let me be very clear. The First Amendment is under occupation. And to say it for a third time in a way that everyone will understand, the First Amendment, the pillar of American life, is being gutted as we speak. At Muslim Girl, we've spent the last decade documenting what happens when a Muslim woman steps into public life. And what happened to Nardine Kiswani in this case is not an anomaly. Muslim women, especially those that are visible, that are outspoken, that are organizing on behalf of their communities, are being consistently targeted with harassment, with threats, and yes, even with violence. This does not happen in a vacuum. It's fueled by rhetoric from public officials who normalize Islamophobia, anti-Muslim sentiment, and the dehumanization of American Muslims. Language that turns political disagreements into justification for harm and even assassination attempts. Congressman Randy Fine has said, we need more Islamophobia, not less, and called the political violence targeting this mother of a 9-month-old baby as rational. Senator Tommy Tuberville has referred to fellow American Muslims as the enemy inside the gates. Congressman Andy Ogles has said, Muslims don't belong in American society. He even went as far as to say that pluralism is a lie. This is the environment that we are all collectively surviving in. Elected officials are ripping our centuries-old American and Islamic principles apart, and they are ripping the fabric of our nation by targeting its most vulnerable members. This moment demands more than just statements. It demands accountability. It demands accountability from our leaders, from our institutions, from anyone who claims to stand for justice. When Muslim women are being targeted, it is not just personal, it is political, clearly. It's an attempt to push us out of public life, to silence our voices, to dictate who is allowed to participate in shaping our country. Muslim women are the canaries in the coal mine. Muslim women are the canaries in the coal mine. We're often the first to feel these attacks, but we are never, and I mean never, the last when they're allowed to continue to this degree. For Nardine, for every woman, for every public citizen that has been silenced, we say loud and clear that we will continue to lead, we will continue to organize, we will continue to speak openly and unapologetically. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing those statements. Next, I'd like to introduce the founder and executive director of Asia Women's Center here in New York City, Dania Darwish.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dania. I am the founder and executive director of the ASEA Women's Center. I want to first start and say that the ASEA Women's Center is deeply horrified by the targeted plot to violently attack and kill Nardine Kiswani in her own home. Not only was she home, but she was home with a 10-month-old baby and her husband. What has been reported is not speculation. It has been confirmed that an individual, a member of the Jewish Defense League, planned to firebomb her home, putting her in danger alongside with her husband and her 10-month-old baby. This is not an isolated incident. This is part of a broader and deeply dangerous pattern. At ASEA Women's Center, we need to be clear about what this represents. Across the United States, Islamophobia and anti-Muslim hate are rising at an alarming rate. Over 8,000 incidents in just 2023 alone. They were reported and had a 56% increase. I want to start off and also say that what we are witnessing now are the consequences of that Islamophobia in real time. At the ASEA Women's Center, we work every day with survivors who experience this exact trajectory. It starts with dehumanization. It escalates to harassment. It continues on to threats. And then when it is ignored, it becomes violence. It becomes our safety. It becomes Muslim women's safety. Nurdin Kiswani was targeted in our own home, and that should shake all of us. No woman should have to fear being attacked, let alone where she sleeps. No one should face violence for their identity, for their political beliefs, or for their advocacy. But when Muslim and Palestinian women are constantly vilified, when they are surveilled, when they are stripped of their humanity, this is the product. It creates an environment where this kind of violence breeds itself. It is not only possible, but it is encouraged in our society. We stand in full, unwavering solidarity with Nurdin Kiswani. We stand for her right to speak. We stand for her right to organize. We stand for her right to live safely without fear. And we call on our leaders, our institutions, our committees to take this moment seriously. It is not enough to condemn violence. It is not enough to say that this should be stopped. We must deeply, as a society, reflect. Is this the values of the First Amendment? Is this who we are? Is this what it looks like to have a right to free speech? We must protect all those that are targeted simply for existing and for speaking. Finally, we want to thank Mayor Mamdani for his statement in support of Nurdin Kiswani, and we encourage you all to support Nurdin Kiswani with her legal battle. Thank you so much, and free Palestine.
Thank you, Dania. Before I introduce our final speaker before Nurdin, I just want to share that after Nurdin is done sharing her remarks, she will also accept some questions between her and her legal team. Finally, I'd like to introduce our final speaker before passing it off to Nurdin is Morgan Basicus, a member of Jewish Voices for Peace here in New York City.
My name is Morgan Basicus. I'm honored to be here today as a member of Jewish Voice for Peace. We are here in unequivocal solidarity with Nurdin Kiswani. We are here outraged, absolutely outraged, to learn of the assassination plot against Nurdin and send her and her family our support, our solidarity, and our love. As speakers have said today, this is not an isolated incident. Acts like these, plots like these, are a result of a culture of blatant anti-Palestinian Islamophobic racism, dehumanization, harassment, and smear campaigns, fostered and fomented by white supremacist organizations, elected officials, the NYPD, and far too many legacy Jewish community institutions. As Jews, it is urgent for our community to condemn institutions that claim to represent us while funding, justifying, enabling, and defending Israel's genocidal apartheid occupation regime. We reject Zionism because we reject all forms of racism and white supremacy and colonialism. We reject any attempt to conflate anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism, which we recognize as a cynical, racist strategy to smear Palestinian activists such as Nurdin and clearly endanger their lives. We reject a culture of normalizing Islamophobia, anti-Palestinian racism, Jewish supremacy, as well as all forms of white supremacy. We will not stand by silently as our Palestinian, Arab, Muslim neighbors risk their lives speaking out for Palestinian freedom. None of us are safe until all of us are safe. None of us are free until all of us are free. Free Palestine. Thank you.
Thank you, Morgan, and thank you to all of our speakers that joined us today across community organizations. Next, I'd like to introduce Nurdin Kiswani to share some words.
you everybody for joining me here today. Something I just noticed, throughout this press conference from the people who were speaking, I'd just like to point out that the largest demographic of supporters that we have today actually came from Muslim women and from Jewish communities who are standing unequivocally against this attack on me. And today I am standing here not just as an organizer, but as a mother, as a Palestinian, and as someone who was the target of a Zionist assassination plot that I have been warning has been inevitable for far too long. When I learned that someone was preparing to attack my home, building explosives with the intention of taking my life, I was not just processing that as a public figure. I was processing that as a mother, holding my infant, thinking what it means for someone to target my home, where my child sleeps, where my family is supposed to be safe. And I want to be clear, this did not come out of nowhere. For years, I and so many other Palestinian organizers have been the targets of coordinated harassment, threats, stalking, dehumanization. We have been doxxed. We have been followed. We have been threatened with violence. There have been bounties placed on us. And what we're seeing today, like so many said before me, I think every single speaker said this, was not an isolated incident. It is part of a broader pattern. Organizations like Batar and individuals aligned with them, organizations like the Jewish Defense League, have spent years targeting Palestinian activists through harassment, intimidation, and violence, and targeting me specifically. And this history matters. So media, when you cover this, you must also cover that history, because this is not the first time Zionist extremist networks have turned to bombings and political violence. In 1985, a Palestinian-American civil rights leader, Alex Saudeh, was killed when a bomb exploded at his office. Decades later, no one has been held accountable. The suspects fled, and those responsible have lived freely in Israel. Exactly what the attempted assassin tried to do to me. And so that history is not separate from this moment. It shows what happens when violence against Palestinians is not taken seriously, when there's no accountability, when those responsible believe that they will face no consequences and that they have a safe haven in a country that receives $3 billion plus of military aid from our tax dollars living here in the United States. We've seen activists attacked at protests. We've seen coordinated doxing campaigns that turned into deportations, and we've seen public calls for violence. Too often this has been ignored or minimized. In Palestine, we've seen this same dehumanization lead to even more extreme violence. In 2015, Ali Dawabshe, an 18-month-old baby, was burned alive in his home in a settler firebombing attack that killed members of his family. He was a baby, just like mine. When I hold my child, I think about him. I think about what it means that a baby could be targeted like that in his home, in his sleep. I think about every single child in Gaza and the West Bank, and every single mother that goes to sleep not knowing if they're going to wake up the next morning. And that is a reality that Palestinians live with. We've seen repeated fire bombings of Palestinian homes, mosques, and communities in the West Bank by settlers who act with near total impunity, including a settler from Brooklyn, Baruch Goldstein, who in 1994 opened fire on Palestinians praying in the Hebron Mosque in the West Bank and killed dozens of people while their heads were towards the ground. Brooklyn born and raised, just like so many of the Zionists who attacked me, who spread violence and hate about me, who told me that I had this assassination plot coming, and who said things like the attacker was an amateur because he was infiltrated by the NYPD and because he did not succeed, signaling that they wish better luck for the next person to succeed in such an attack on myself. So when we talk about what happened here, we can't isolate it from that broader reality, because the same dehumanization that makes that violence possible here is what makes this kind of violence possible there, and vice versa. We've already seen that this violence doesn't stay overseas, it comes here. In 2023, Wadia al-Fayoumi, a 6-year-old Palestinian-American boy in Illinois, was stabbed to death in an attack motivated by anti-Palestinian hate. And in 2023, 3 Palestinian college students in Vermont were shot while wearing keffiyehs, targeted, keffiyehs like the one I'm wearing, targeted simply for who they were and what they represented. Again, these are not isolated incidents. It's a pattern where Palestinians are dehumanized, where our lives are treated as less valuable, where violence against us is incited, justified, and ignored. So when we talk about Zionism, we have to be honest about who we're talking about. We're talking about a political ideology that in its practice has been used to justify the dispossession, dehumanization, and killing of Palestinians. And when that ideology is normalized and celebrated, funded, and protected, it does not remain contained. It produces consequences, including violence, and that violence reaches Palestinians everywhere, including those of us here in the United States. Even in coverage of this assassination plot, some major media outlets spent more time repeating attacks on me and my activism than examining the organized hatred that made this possible. And this is part of the problem. When the focus shifts from those inciting the violence to the person being targeted, it normalizes what is happening, it justifies it, and it blames the victim. So let me say this clearly. There is nothing acceptable about an assassination plot. There's nothing acceptable about targeting a mother and her child because I'm Palestinian and because I speak out for my people. And I want to speak personally for a moment. As a Palestinian, this isn't abstract to me. My family is living through occupation. My people are living through genocide. I'm watching in real time as our people are being bombed, displaced, and killed. I'm watching the world debate our humanity and justify our deaths. This dehumanization does not stay contained. It follows us here, and it doesn't just targets Palestinians. It targets all people who stand with us. It targets all people of conscience. And it targets people not just who stand up against genocide, but that people who even don't actively, enthusiastically support genocide are targeted for not doing so. So when I stand here today, I'm not only speaking about what happened to me. I'm speaking about a system that allows it to happen, a failure to hold extremist networks accountable, a normalization of violence against Palestinians. And that's why I have filed a lawsuit against those responsible for coordinated campaigns of harassment and intimidation through my attorneys. Because there must be accountability, not just for one individual, the one person who was arrested, but for the networks, the organizations, the figures and politicians who spent years inciting this kind of hatred and justifying it. We can't accept a reality where Palestinian activists are expected to be under constant threat. We can't accept a reality where speaking out puts a target on our back. What I'm calling for today is simple. Accountability for those who incite and organize violence, protection for Palestinian activists and our communities, and an end to the normalization of hatred that makes this possible. Because this is bigger than me. It's about whether Palestinian people and all people who stand for justice are allowed to exist, to speak, and to organize without facing intimidation and violence. And I want to be clear about one thing. I will not be silenced. I will not stop speaking out for the Palestinian people. Despite the threats, despite the harassment, despite even this assassination plot, I will continue to speak out for my people and for justice. Because no one should have to face this. No mother should have to hold her child and wonder if their home is being targeted. We're here today because we refuse to accept that as normal. We're here today because we demand accountability. And we're here today because our lives, our voices, and our struggle for justice and liberation matters. Thank you.
Hey folks, so we're going to be taking a few questions from the crowd to Nadine and her legal team.
And told me to call him. And so I did so with my attorneys, and he told us that there was something, there was basically he didn't specify, but he said that my safety was in danger, that somebody was on their way to harm me, but that they made an arrest and that they don't believe I'm in imminent danger as of the phone call. We tried to get information on who this person was, their name, the nature of the arrest, but they didn't reveal. They said that I would find out about it in the news the next day. And after we asked, they revealed that the person was arrested in Hoboken, New Jersey. I already had a gut feeling about what was going on. Throughout my pregnancy, while the genocide was ongoing in Gaza, I was getting daily threats. I was getting repeatedly followed. Organizations like Betar posted several times online for offering $1,000 and then $1,800, upping the bounty, saying that we'll give this amount of money to anybody who hands that jihadi a beeper, in reference to me, to anyone that hands Nardine a beeper. And of course, this harkens back to the attack, the Israeli attack on Lebanon that has left multiple children maimed, disabled, after they used beepers as explosive devices, another terrorist attack on families and children in Lebanon. And so, I already was living with fear, living with worry, and that's precisely why I filed that lawsuit against Qatar a month prior to this. I also felt that, with this lawsuit being filed, that they would do anything to silence me, that they would, go after me and try to get vengeance and retribution for me, trying to hold them accountable, not just in the streets through protests, but through the courts, using the legal process of this country, to assert my civil rights, to assert my freedom of speech, and my right to live in safety without fear and dignity.
All right, so as you can see, a lengthy press conference in New York this morning featuring a number of different speakers, and especially Nardine Kizwani, the pro-Palestinian activist and the co-founder of Within Our Lifetime organization, who was allegedly plotted against in an assassination attempt by, allegedly once again, Alexander Heifler, who has in fact been arrested in this situation. That took place Thursday night, this press conference taking place this morning, and we'll continue to follow that story and potentially the legal dealings that are to come for Alexander Heifler. Okay, that does it for us here on Live Impact News on this Monday. Relatively seamless here for a Monday. We kind of cruised through that. Let's hope the rest of the week is more of the same. It's going to be beautiful outside, everybody. Go enjoy the weather, and we'll see everyone tomorrow afternoon.